Hey guys, JV here with a commentary on the possible DLC reference during the epilogue mission of Mass Effect Andromeda. This occurs after the final mission of the game, which means there will inevitably be spoilers in this video, so proceed at your own risk. Whether you've seen this already or not, I'm going to play the dialogue scene that points to the DLC.
I have important news for you.
There always is.
Yes, discoveries every day, but this is something we've been waiting for. Listen.
So, white noise?
Sorry, Sam. Active filtering. Initiative Protocol Alpha Alpha to the screen.
Protocol what?
Processing.
Repeating. This is the Ark Kila Sa. The situation is not under control. Note and avoid until further update. Repeating.
Is that?
The Quarian Ark. And Elcor, Drell, Volus? Hanar, I think. That's some delicate business, putting Hanar in stasis. Point is, they're still out there. The Kila Sa wasn't destroyed.
That's fantastic news. We need to report this right away.
It's good news, but it bounced too many times to trace and...
That's not a distress call. It's a warning to keep away from wherever they are.
Whatever's happening, they don't want to be found yet. We have to trust their Pathfinder.
All we can do is wait.
So let's go over this. We have a signal from the Quarian Ark that appears after we have completed the game, after we've taken down the Archon, so on and so forth. We've got all this static, and then Sam filters that out. And then we hear from the Ark Kila Sa, which is the Quarian Ark that also holds the Elcor, Drell, Volus, and Hanar. The good news is that it wasn't destroyed. The Ark does exist because we're getting the signal, but it's not a distress call. It's a warning to stay away from wherever they are, and we don't seem to know where they are. And of course, they say we have to trust in their Pathfinder, and then Scott says all we can do is wait. Just a few notes about the Kila Sa. This is the Quarian Ark that was supposed to carry all those other races and be with the first wave, but the varied biological needs of the Ark's population created technical complications, so its launch was delayed until after the first wave's departure, which means it was supposed to go with all of the other races. It wasn't able to, and so it launched a little bit after the first 4 arcs. Up until now, we've talked about confirmed information. This is stuff that we know. We know that the Ark Kila Sa is in Helios somewhere because we got that signal, but we don't know anything more than that. So now let's kind of dip our toes into speculation territory. I think the obvious implication is that the Quarian Ark is under attack from something, and we can assume it's either the Ket or the Scourge. I know that the Scourge doesn't actually attack, but maybe they're caught in some kind of Scourge anomaly somewhere in the Helios cluster and they need help, or it just could be a Ket attack and they're just warning like, hey, there's things going on, but we don't want you to come and save us because it's dangerous. And of course, the Quarian Ark doesn't know about all the other arcs arriving and being safe. They have no clue at this point. Either of those possibilities are definitely likely because, as we know, the first 4 arcs all had some kind of damage from the Scourge or the Ket. Ark Hyperia and Ark Tannis both were damaged by the Scourge, and then Ark Lucinia and Ark Parchero were either captured by the Ket or destroyed by the Ket in some capacity. So this really does set the stage for future content for Mass Effect Andromeda, whether it's in the form of DLC or they're going to save it for a sequel. Now, I am definitely leaning towards DLC just because of the way it is presented and phrased in that dialogue cutscene that we saw at the beginning of the video. This just doesn't seem like something that'll be put on hold until a sequel to me. I know they said the situation's not under control, note and avoid until further updates, so it's kind of like a wait thing, but there's several missions in this game that go on hold until you complete something in the story or pass a certain amount of time for them to show up. And so I think that, you know, finding the Quarian Ark and solving that situation, however it does go down, seems likely within this game. And let's think about the implications of this. Does this mean we're going to see all of these races? Because introducing, I know they've been in previous games, but that's 5 races from the Milky Way that aren't in Andromeda already. Does that mean that they've modeled all of these races and redesigned them a little bit? Because we know that all the races got a facelift for Andromeda. Of course, they moved over from Unreal, I believe, to Frostbite. It's a new engine. They did make Inquisition, but in terms of Mass Effect, they had to make all those assets from scratch. Are we going to see all 5 of these races in whatever Quarian Ark content that's going to come? I don't know. It seems a little far-fetched to me that we're going to see Drell, Hanar, Elcor, Volus, and the Quarians. I don't know what the story implication of that is, but I would be shocked to see all of these. I would be obviously surprised and very happy to see all of these races, but really, it's an interesting prospect. And if some of these races do not survive whatever is happening, from the warning signal in the Helios cluster, obviously we're going to find out what happens to them. I'm not saying that not all of them are going to survive. It would just, again, be a pleasant surprise to see all of these races make their way into Andromeda. And each of the arcs that we encounter in, vanilla Andromeda with no DLC, they all have their own unique story, but it's either Ket or Scourge, like I mentioned before. So I'm curious to see how BioWare will separate the Quarian Ark story from the rest of those, because it would be a little boring. Obviously, seeing the Quarians and the other races, that's exciting stuff, right? But I think it would be a little lackluster to just have us save the Ark from whatever Ket activities are happening. Personally, I'd like to see the Primus be involved there, because that is a villain that we saw after the credits of Andromeda kind of, make some villainous, like, hey, I'm going to be a problem for you in the future little cutscene appearance at the very, very end. I would love to see the Primus involved with this storyline, and since this takes place after the canon of this story, which means they assume, whatever happens with the Quarian Ark, they assume that you're going to save it after you have defeated the Archon, which means there does need to be some kind of threat with the Quarian Ark. So that makes me think, yes, Primus is something we're going to encounter, and if not Primus, we're going to encounter some other new enemy, maybe another leader of the Ket. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but there is a little discrepancy here that may allow us to see older characters, and that's because the Quarian Ark was delayed. Its launch was delayed. It wasn't launched with the rest of them. We don't know exactly how long that launch is delayed. As far as I know, it could be after the events of Mass Effect 3. I don't see that happening. I'm sure it was a small delay and they launched before the events of Mass Effect 3, because as we know, the first wave of arcs with the initiative launched between 2 and 3. We know now that Kila Sa was delayed, but the amount of time is not specified on that delay. So once again, small possibility. I don't see it happening, but man, it would be incredible to see some familiar face on this arc show up in Andromeda. Finally, if this does end up being DLC, I'm interested in the structure of it. Like, what are we going to be doing in this DLC? Is it going to be a one-off mission where we go and save the Quarian Ark? Because this is a fairly large game. I think the best thing to look at when speculating on this is the DLC of Inquisition, because once again, I think this Mass Effect game structurally is much more like Inquisition than the original trilogy. So Inquisition had 3 pieces of DLC: Jaws of Hakan, The Descent, and Trespasser. I haven't personally played these, but according to HowLongToBeat.com, the main mission in each of these takes around 5 to 6 hours. So that's 5 to 6 hours of extra content, and then in order to 100% it, it's anywhere from 8 to 11 extra hours. Some, if not all of these pieces of DLC introduced new areas, and so that makes me wonder, are we going to get a new planet or two out of a possible DLC for Andromeda? Is the Quarian Ark going to crash in a new system that we haven't been able to explore yet, and then we get to actually go in that system and find an uncharted world? I think it would be amazing if it's even like a smaller scale than the other ones to have another uncharted world that we can take the Nomad on and actually drive around. I think that's a little ambitious, but I would love to see it. The first 2 pieces of DLC for Inquisition, the single player ones, both had 10 to 20 quests, some of them main quests, some of them side quests. I've kind of talked about how I feel about task missions in this game. I wouldn't like DLC to introduce more task missions, but hey, if it's 5 to 6 hours of quality content and even further with some side missions that you don't have to complete necessarily to complete the DLC, that would really satisfy me. Continuing further along this line of comparison, each of these pieces of DLC for Inquisition were $15. And so you're paying $15 for 5 to 6 hours of main missions and then 8 to 11 hours of 100%ing each of those. If it's quality content and they've prioritized fixing bugs and stuff before releasing those pieces of DLC, then I am totally on board. I'm absolutely on board to find out more about Andromeda through this game. Again, there is no season pass, so that may or may not affect the prices of this, since you can't get all of them in a bundle unless they plan to announce it in the near future. All right, that is it for this video. Again, just a bunch of speculation on what this DLC could possibly be. I think it totally, this signal thing, this warning call definitely does point to DLC in my eyes, and I definitely want to play it. So share your thoughts in the comment section below on whether or not you'd like to play this DLC, what you'd like to see from it in terms of size and scope, like we talked about compared to Inquisition. Share all of your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, remember to hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it, and don't forget to subscribe for a little more Andromeda content. We are moving into Prey, but I do have a few more commentaries planned for Andromeda. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you next time.